Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Tonight on Our News, former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram recovering from COVID-19. Our News speaks with him about the diagnosis. New curfew restrictions announced for Abaco as that island sees a spike in COVID cases. Plus, police are investigating the shooting death of a man, the third murder on New Providence this week. Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram is in Doctors Hospital continuing his fight with COVID-19. Tonight, one of his doctors tells Our News Ingram is making a speedy recovery and should be able to head home very soon. Kyle Joaquin has the update.
This is the third night the former Prime Minister is spending here at Doctors Hospital, but doctors say Hubert Ingram is recovering.
They came. They tested me, called me back several hours later and said my wife and myself both tested positive.
It was a confirmation he didn't quite expect. Former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram being told he and his wife Dolores has COVID. 74-year-old Ingram had been home for 10 days on doctor's orders after testing positive. But on Tuesday, he was admitted to hospital after a doctor's visit. Prior to that visit, he said although he had tests and x-rays that all came back fine, he had unusual discomfort doing simple things like urinating and getting out of bed.
And so that became very discomforting. We got tired when he got up. And that meant I got up very often. And so I figured, we might do something. So we determined then that so once you wait for the 10 days, and let's see what happens.
Expressing gratitude to the medical team taking care of him, the former Prime Minister says he now feels much better and that he is in a better state than when he was first admitted to hospital. Cardiothoracic surgeon Dr. Dwayne Sands is one of the doctors tending to Ingram.
He is in good spirits. He is deeply appreciative of the outpouring of support and warmth and love from the general public, something that I'm sure is a mutual feeling. And, I think hopes and prayers are for a speedy recovery.
Sands says after an interview with our news team over the phone from his hospital bed, Ingram asked Sands to provide more details to members of the media. Overall, Dr. Sands says Ingram has a fantastic team of doctors and nurses tending to him.
He has a whole team, not to mention nurses, respiratory technicians, and the supporting team, radiologists, emergency room doctors, etc. Luckily, fortunately, he is improving, and we are all very grateful for that.
As for where he could have contracted the virus, Ingram says he's not sure as he limits his movements. The three-term Prime Minister also confirming that as soon as the vaccine is available, he will get it. Ingram says two members of his law office as well as his wife tested positive for COVID-19, but he was the only one hospitalized. As for how his wife is doing.
It's been wonderful. She was the one I expected to be more ill than I am. But she was looking after me for the last 10 days. It's been wonderful.
Now again, doctors say Hubert Ingram is recovering but could not say exactly when he's expected to be discharged from hospital. Reporting from Doctors Hospital for Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, following news that former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram is hospitalized with COVID-19, senators from both sides of the political divide sending well wishes as he continues to recover in hospital. Attorney General Carl Bethel and Progressive Liberal Party Senator Dr. Michael Darville.
We were deeply saddened to see the banner headlines in the paper today, and we do wish him every success, a quick, speedy and full recovery, and that his family similarly would soon have the benefit of having him come back home the right way, where he can continue his service to the Bahamian people. Because even though prime ministers, former prime ministers, you may think they are not doing anything, one thing they always try to do is advise current prime ministers.
Darville, who contracted COVID-19 last year, says he hopes the former PM gets well soon so he can continue to contribute to the growth and development of the country. Well, COVID-19 restrictions on Abaco will be tightened on Sunday, according to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis. Bethany McDermott reports.
A slight uptick in COVID-19 cases on Abaco is prompting the competent authority to restrict Abaco's curfew between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. effective Sunday, according to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis.
The medical team has already mobilized and made all the necessary adjustments. And their recommendation is that at this particular point in time, we should place Abaco's curfew should be readjusted from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. And we intend to make that adjustment 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. on Sunday.
Speaking on the sidelines of the opening of Eden Farms, Dr. Minnis says this recommendation now requires that anyone leaving mainland Abaco obtain a negative RT-PCR test.
We feel that with 2 weeks of this strict type protocol, we would be able to control Abaco and prevent it from spreading into the other parts of the Bahamas.
The Prime Minister says Marsh Harbor and the northern parts of the island have experienced an uptick, while South Abaco doesn't seem to be affected. Dr. Minnis, however, making it clear that the island is not experiencing an outbreak. He touted the methods of curfews and lockdowns, saying what worked before will work again.
I want to reassure the Bahamian populace that there's not an outbreak in Abaco. We're taking strict precautions because of the increase. We do not want it to go any further. And we've used this method in the past and it's worked, and we will use the method again.
The Prime Minister also taking the opportunity to again encourage Bahamians to take the COVID-19 vaccine, which he said government is more aggressively trying to acquire, given the recent uptick in cases on Abaco.
We would be even more aggressive in trying to get the vaccine here as quickly as possible. And I would urge all the Bahamians to accept the vaccine, because then we would decrease the rate of infection, as is demonstrated throughout the world.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
With a number of active COVID-19 cases in the Bahamas, the Consultant Physician Staff Association is warning that the threat of the virus is still very real. Jillian Gray reports.
After nearly a year of COVID-19 protocols and restrictions, Dr. Sabrika Pinder-Butler says she understands why many people have COVID fatigue, but she's urging Bahamians not to become too relaxed, as COVID-19 is still a very real threat.
They go places and they don't see businesses ensuring that persons are social distancing, people aren't washing their hands, temperature checks, nothing is happening. So they're also wondering if things have changed and in some instances becoming a bit lax themselves. And that is something that we definitely want to discourage.
Since COVID-19 was first detected in the country last March, there have been 8,496 total cases and 179 deaths recorded. The number of active cases stands at 990, with 32 of those persons hospitalized. If the rising numbers worldwide are any indication of what's ahead, Dr. Pinder-Butler says lowering our guard is not an option.
We know the COVID fatigue. We know that persons want to come out, they want to go to the movies, they want to go to church, and all of these things, which, has its place, but we still have to be mindful.
Large funeral services, Junkanoo rushouts, and gatherings that go against COVID restrictions have popped up around the country in recent weeks. Dr. Pinder-Butler says if we want to continue to experience low COVID numbers, we must continue to follow protocols. That means even as schools reopen, measures need to be followed to protect educators.
I'm sure there are also teachers that are in high risk that have chronic conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, or that might be older, and so are at risk of contracting COVID-19. So we all have to also do our part to safeguard those persons who are working to try to make sure that your children are getting the education that they need.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
In other news, police are investigating the shooting death of a man believed to be in his 20s just 2 doors down from a Wolf Road preschool. This is the third murder on New Providence this week. Police say the victim is a resident of the Marmalade Close area and was found laying on the ground with gunshot wounds. EMS pronounced him dead at the scene. ASP Audley Peters telling reporters that police are following leads and ask for the support of the community.
We've canvassed the area, and the intelligence we have thus far is very promising, and in due course the necessary actions will be taken and the matter may be brought before the court depending on the evidence that is gathered. We're not able to say the rationale for the homicide as to the motive of it. But however, we simply ask that members of the public in the community who may have the information that we need to bring us to a close to call the police and assist us with that.
Police reported 2 separate double shootings on Monday night. Peters say there's no evidence to suggest the homicides are related. Well, beautiful sunny skies in the capital today. Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest.
Thanks, Christina. And our first look at weather brought to you tonight by Ports International for all your medical supplies and equipment needs. Beautiful conditions outside our studio, setting up temperatures in the mid-70s, warm. Few clouds, winds out of the southeast at 5 knots, and those feels-like temperature are in the mid-70s. Chamber of Commerce Day around the islands today. Blue skies, few clouds. We have a little weak surface trough just to the west of the Bahamas, generating a couple isolated showers across Grand Bahama. But all in all, beautiful evening setting up outdoors. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Ahead on our news, the Prime Minister says a former cabinet minister is not under investigation, plus why a senator is clearing the air about her political future. That's coming up when our news returns.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the R News Bahamas page.
Former Youth, Sports and Culture Minister Lanisha Roll is not part of an ongoing investigation at the ministry, according to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis. Dr. Minnis did not provide details on the ongoing investigation. Roll resigned from cabinet on Tuesday. Dr. Minnis also addressing concerns of a lack of women represented in his cabinet.
We always feel that we want to ensure that there are equal men and women, not only in cabinet, but even if you look in the office of the Prime Minister, I'm male there. Both my secretaries are females. My delivery unit director is female. My communications director, female. The individual in charge of my Bahamas Investment Authority, female.
The Prime Minister says he is looking forward to the day the Bahamas sees its first woman Prime Minister. Well, Senator Lisa Bostwick Dean shooting down claims that she will appear on the ballot as a candidate for the Free National Movement in the next general election. This as she expressed her disappointment in the lack of female representation in the Minnis cabinet after a recent resignation. Jasmine Brown has that.
The Free National Movement senator laid it all on the line, explaining why she will not be a candidate for the Free National Movement. She says nothing could be further from the truth than social media chatter and rumors that have spread like wildfire following the resignation of Lanisha Roll from cabinet earlier this week.
I understand that I'm the candidate for Seabreeze.
What?
I understand, according to all that's out there. I assure the Bahamas, I am not the next candidate for Seabreeze.
Roll, who was the sole female minister in cabinet, resigned on Tuesday. Following Roll's sudden departure from cabinet, claims that Bostwick Dean received the nod for the constituency surfaced. But Bostwick Dean, who practices law, says there is no truth to those claims.
For personal reasons, I was unable to put myself forward for this term. But I'm sure most of you probably thought, because of the reliable news feeds on social media, Bostwick Dean, next. I've heard my name in all kinds of ways, and I've heard my family's name, what we want, what you come here for.
Bostwick Dean, the daughter of Dame Janet Bostwick, the first woman elected to the House of Assembly, wished Roll well, but says she is not happy that there are no women in cabinet.
I do understand the challenges with that decision, as there are not many in the lower house. And indeed, there is no room for someone in this house to become a seated cabinet minister. I would be remiss not to state my deep concerns about the matter. And I certainly hope that it is a matter that there can be some solution to. And if not now, then when the F&M returns to governance.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
And some Seabreeze residents offering reaction to news that area MP Lanisha Roll resigned as Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture. Here's Jared Higgs.
Seabreeze residents expressed shock at Roll's decision to resign.
The fact that was brought up, that was something that perhaps I guess will have to be investigated.
While Roll did not give an explanation in her resignation letter to the Governor General, a statement from the Cabinet Office noted that certain matters have been brought to the attention of the Prime Minister and are under investigation. The Nassau Guardian understands Roll's resignation followed the completion of an internal audit into the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. The details of that audit have not yet been made public.
I was shocked because, like I said, the Prime Minister at the very beginning, he said that, if his ministers didn't govern above board, and if he heard of any impropriety going on, he would, call that minister. So obviously there must be something going on for her to have resigned.
It is unclear whether Roll will get the nomination again in Seabreeze. However, 56-year-old Glenn Ford Ferguson says she should be given an opportunity when she's presented her case.
If found wanting, then by all means she should. I don't agree she should be given an opportunity to say no. Again.
However, Javin Green, a 54-year-old unemployed former casino worker, expressed disbelief that Roll will be able to win her seat if nominated.
We have Leslie Miller is running for this area. And from what I gathered from the constituents inside this area, she'll be the one to have.
Roll is the fourth minister to resign from Ministers' cabinet since 2017 and the third to resign since May.
Resigning from cabinet, I think it seems as though that party is starting to crumble.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
When our news comes back from the break, we'll tell you why one MP says he's not sure who'll win the next election. And Marcellus Hall takes a look at sports. Stay with us.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the Our News Bahamas page.
This is Our News. Welcome back. Pine Ridge MP Frederick McAlpine says he'll remain a member of the Free National Movement until advised otherwise. This as he has yet to receive the party's ratification for his current seat. Giorgio Bain has that.
Member of Parliament for Pine Ridge Frederick McAlpine telling reporters that he is aware that the Free National Movement is interviewing candidates for his position without even notifying him. According to the MP, there seems to be more concern over the nomination than who will actually win the seat.
Anybody can nominate. Even if you take a Chihuahua down there and put the Chihuahua name and pay the $400, even a Chihuahua can nominate. Nomination is not the issue. The most important issue for all these parties should be not nomination, but winning the seat.
According to McAlpine, he understands the F&M has to do what it must, but he still has not considered crossing the floor to join the Progressive Liberal Party.
The opposition have made invites to me to consider joining them, and they were amicable and cordial, but I, at this time, would prefer to stay as an independent voice or a Free National Movement independent, whatever you want to call me. But at this time, I'm not considering having to join the PLP at this particular time.
McAlpine says it's hard to say whether the governing party will win the next general election.
The Bahamian people are between a rock and a hard place because there is this perception, whether perceived to be real or not, there is a perception that one political organization is corrupt and the other one is incompetent. We've never had this kind of low expectancy and performance from any government in the past.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
And DeAndre Ayton and the Suns stung the Hornets. Meanwhile, a local baseball coach gives his hopes for the new baseball stadium. Here's Marcellus Hall.
Thanks so much, Christina. Welcome to our Sports on a Thursday, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. The basketball gods have been good to the Phoenix Suns this season. They are finding themselves in the mix for a playoff spot as the midpoint of the year comes up on us. Last night, taking on the Charlotte Hornets, hoping to extend their winning streak. Sometimes your best wishes and plans don't always turn out the way you hope. Let's take a look. DeAndre Ayton and his Phoenix Suns red hot as of late. Last night, taking on the Charlotte Hornets. Suns, though, no answers for the Hornets' Malik Monk. He dropped in 29, and rookie LaMelo Ball added 20 points and 8 assists. Hornets cooling off the Suns 124 to 121. Ayton would log 32 minutes. He shot 5 of 8 from the field, finished with 16 points, 10 rebounds, and a block. This came in a losing effort. Despite the loss, Phoenix remains fourth in the Western Conference at 20-11. The next game comes your way on Friday when they square off against the Chicago Bulls in Chicago. Meanwhile, in baseball news, as the new Andre Rogers Baseball Stadium gets closer to completion, International Elite Baseball Academy co-founder Jerron Sands with his thoughts on what the stadium could mean for the sport moving forward.
Once it gets done, and once we get on the field playing, I think it'll be nice. Good for the Bayman people, good for the upcoming guys. Well, hopefully it's used to showcase baseball from the Bahamas, develop national teams, and kind of have the camaraderie and have other countries come in and play and kind of compete against Caribbean nations or the world. But overall, continue to grow the youth and have the younger guys continue to grow and eventually get into the big stadium. Have guys looking forward to something.
And that's a check on sports for you here on this Thursday. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow for another episode of the Locker Room Sports Show. That comes your way right here on RTV tomorrow evening at 6:30. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you.
Still to come, another beautiful day in the capital. Greg has the weather outlook, and a new sustainable farm opens on New Providence. The details after this.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the R News Bahamas page.
Welcome back to our news. More beautiful conditions ahead. Greg is over in the Weather Center with the weather outlook.
Thanks again, Christina, and a happy Thursday evening, everybody. Beautiful conditions around the islands once again as a high-pressure system remains in charge of our weather, generating blue skies. Just some patchy clouds moving across the southeast Bahamas. We do have a surface trough just to the west of Grand Bahama, generating a couple isolated showers across that area. But we expect that trough to weaken as this pushes towards the north and east. But the high-pressure system will continue to provide us with some pleasant conditions and very warm temperatures into the weekend. Your boating forecast for the northwest Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will be out of the east to southeast, 10 to 15 knots. Seas running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean. While in the central and southeastern islands, we have a caution flag posted for you guys down there. East to south easterly winds, 15 to 20 knots. Seas running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. Tide is presently high. Will be low at 36 minutes past midnight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Tuesday. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everyone.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
Well, a hydroponic farming company looking to do its part to boost the country's food security officially opening today. Eden Farms is founded by a few businessmen and hydroponic farmers looking to connect people to fresh, hyper-local crops to achieve food security and sustainable living.
At just 320 square feet, we use vertical hydroponic energy to grow food on a commercial scale that supports our communities.
Our board and team are made of boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, the young, and the young at heart.
Creation of a vibrant, modern farming industry of Bahamians, farmers, volunteers, interns, and food dollars being spent right here instead of abroad.
From fresh romaine lettuce to kale and collard greens, the hydroponic containerized farming system is the first of its kind in the Bahamas, using UV lighting so crops can grow year-round. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis and Agriculture Minister Michael Pintard.
Food sovereignty and food security are not just watchwords, they are an imperative in this age. It's about wealth creation, employment creation.
We have already agreed at cabinet level and placing in every heads of agreement that 40% of all foods within the hotels must be Bahamian grown.
Eden Farms offers retail and wholesale produce. Well, that does it for our news tonight. Thank you for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. A new episode of On the Record with Jerome Sawyer starts right now. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.